I'm on a bit of a scuffed setup today because my camera done and broke last night midstream, okay? But you think that's gonna slow down the bad boy? You think that's gonna put the brakes on this channel? I don't think so, okay? You think that a warning is gonna slow me down, a bit of a shadow ban, and then breaking my camera midstream is gonna stop the content on this channel? I don't think so. I got some Ethan Klein CPS drama to be getting into today, and you think that this is gonna make that content not happen? I don't think so, folks. So if you haven't heard, Ethan Klein had Child Protective Services falsely called on him by somebody who doesn't like him on the internet. And that's just scratching the surface. We're gonna get into all those details, but before we do, hey, hi, hello, I am the bad boy cult leader Dan Frampton. Welcome to the clubhouse. This is the art of slop. Around here, we make daily commentary style videos about trending topics on the internet. And if that sounds cool to you, comment within the first 3 hours and I will reply. Oh, and likes and subs. Let's go. I keep looking up where my normal camera used to be, so I'm gonna try to adapt and overcome. So first, let me hit you with a little bit of context. We're gonna be talking about Ethan Klein from the H3 podcast. Now recently, he put out what he calls a content nuke where he criticizes Hassan Piker. Now Hassan Piker used to do a podcast with Ethan called The Leftovers where they made fun of right-wing stuff. There was a huge falling out between these two co-hosts surrounding the Israel-Palestine conflict, which ultimately led to the podcast separating ways. Ethan would go on to do his normal content, and Hassan would go on to do his normal content. As time passed, Hassan's fans got gradually more and more insane as they called Ethan Klein a Zionist. They claimed that his wife was a baby because she spent time in the IDF. Now, if you're not familiar, when you're in Israel, when you live there, you have to spend time in the IDF or you're in prison. Ethan Klein's wife, Ela Klein, is not a baby just because she did her mandatory duty in that service. As the detractors started to pile up, they took a defunct Frenemies 3 subreddit dedicated to hating on frenemies Ethan Klein and a former co-host Trisha Paytas. Well, then this Frenemies 3 subreddit was then rebranded into the H3 Snark. Now basically a snark, it's all in the name. People are there to be catty, people are there to gossip and be snarky, okay? They don't care about facts or anything like that. They're just there to hate the content creator that they're all there to hate. One day the bad boy's gonna have a snark of his own. I'm gonna cultivate a gang of warriors to rise up against the haters that are gonna have that snark eventually. Can't wait for that arc. That's gonna be insane. But anyway, that is just the context portion of this story. The other day, the haters of H3 on the H3 Snark took it up an extra level. Now the Kleins have seen it all. They've been doxxed, they've been harassed, they've been hacked and suppressed and you name it, but this one is a new experience for the Kleins because somebody from that snark called and reported them to the Child Protective Services. That is going an extra level of crazy. Now apparently when you call the CPS, you have to prove who you are, and this person said that they were an employee of the H3 podcast based on the information that Ethan Klein was giving in the podcast. Isn't that twisted? Then the next day, the CPS sends an agent to the Klein's house to do an investigation. Now the CPS is famously underfunded, okay? And there are kids out there in families that need the service. Big time, drastically, absolutely 100%. But where did they decide to put their resources? On the Kleins. So this agent shows up to the Klein's house. What does he see? A clean house. No reason to believe that the Kleins are mistreating the kids. Here's the whole thing why CPS was called. A dog that H3 recently adopted has this disease called Giardia. Nobody on the internet apparently has heard of Giardia until this drama. Anyway, the Klein's newborn baby got sick and Ethan was speculating on his podcast that he thinks it might have been Giardia that the kid contacted because he said it's a good theory because the dog's butt is up against things in the house. Even though it's a clean house, the kid is also crawling around on those same surfaces. So Ethan was just speculating on his show, which he does. He is an open book out there, and he was like, oh, maybe it came from the dog. Just keep that in the back pocket for now. On the subreddit, deduced that is because that there's just shit all over the place, that the Kleins live in an unhealthy environment for kids, and that the kids are just crawling around eating shit. That is not the case. When you have Giardia, you have those bacteria elements on your little bum all the time. So you could just be in a clean house, rubbing that bum on something, and then also have a kid crawling around without an immune system. Things can happen. It isn't because it's an unsafe place for the kid. They take the kid to the doctor, and it turns out that Ethan Klein was just suspecting that it was Giardia, and it wasn't even that to begin with. But that fact wasn't enough for the snarkers because they've all kind of doubled down on it. They don't see how crazy it is to call Child Protective Services on a content creator whose content you don't like because it criticizes the content creator that you do like. Do you see how that is absolutely brain dead behavior? And if that wasn't enough drama for the H3 crew and family to be going through, idubbbz, Ethan's former friend, very famous content creator, and his wife, they are absolutely cowards living in fear of the Hassan orbiters because they're not standing up for H3, Ethan, and Hila, not by a long shot. They've been to the Klein's house before. They know that the Klein's house apparently isn't so filthy. They could have said, actually, the kid's not probably crawling around eating. They have a clean house and stuff. You didn't even need to say like, oh, actually, I agree with everything Ethan's ever said. No, all you gotta do is be a halfway decent friend. It's kind of like the bare minimum. And then Hila goes on to say on the podcast that maybe it would have been an uncomfortable position for them to speak up like that, but that is craziness, man. Like I said, that is the bare minimum. Actually, no, their kids don't eat dog. What? Ethan and Ian, idubbbz, have been friends going back forever. They've made all sorts of content together. Iconic videos out there featuring these two people. And idubbbz, not gonna say anything? Afraid of Hassan and all of his orbiters right now? idubbbz and Mrs. idubbbz are absolutely the worst friends of all time. And me, myself, I would consider myself an H3 former fan. I'm not a ride or die. He started to do some stuff along the way that I'm not a huge fan of, okay? But this CPS kind of stuff is absolutely bonkers behavior. Like, what kind of lifestyle must you be living in order to call Child Protective Services on a content creator you don't like just because they made a video about a content creator you do like? I am never going to understand that. That is never going to compute in the bad boy's head. That's going to get double birds thumbs out every day. And as far as the H3 Hassan drama, I would love to say that's where it is right now, but there is so much more stuff going on here. It is a lot more nuanced of a drama than a video like this can ever convey. So right now, it's time for me to put my 1%er patch on my battle jacket, get on my American made, and ride off into the sunset. Hopefully soon I get a better camera around here, and we won't have as scuffed of a production. If you enjoyed this video, remember, likes and subs, let's go. This channel is being suppressed right now because there is a warning looming over top. The robots on this site think that I'm a and you know that's not true. You know the bad boy just has criticisms for the Okay, goodbye, see you later, and have a good one.